everybody. Somebody give me a 5 for 5 and we'll get going. Yeah. I'll wait on the 5 for 5 and we will, I hope to keep you guys here shortly. I don't really want this to go very long because I will probably do another live stream later on tonight. But with that being said, guys, if we got a 5 for 5, I'm going to go on with this, all right? Thanks to all my mods and everybody else. Okay, 5 by T, huh? Okay, I got you guys. Hey, Jerry, thanks for being here. Kim Possible, what's up? Everybody else, Josh, Daryl, good to see everybody. Hey, Laura. Hey, guys, can you please share it out? I really would appreciate it. I do look for space weather to continue to increase. And I'll explain a little bit more as we get going here. But yeah, so I do want to say thanks to Rip Curl. Guys, go check out his channel. He's been doing some more videos now on prepping. Go check out Ilea, Trinity, Red Pill, Blue Pill. They are my managing moderators. They got a few little extra things that they can do to help me out during my stream if they need to. I appreciate them for taking on that little bit of an extra responsibility. And I appreciate all my mods. My mods are awesome. They always have been. They know what's going on here and how we run things. And on that point, guys, we don't talk bad about other channels ever. We just don't do that. It just brings drama. And even if I'm agreeing with what you're saying, I'm not going to allow that to stay. I won't even address it. I'll just delete it. And my mods do that. So be respectful in there, guys. And I know you guys typically are. So that's just what I would like to say. And, oh yeah, guys, please go over and check out TLB, Lifeboat. I'm going to shout him out almost every stream. You guys know that. He's doing great stuff over there, as always. And Marfugal TV, him and Dex, Adam and Dex, awesome. The whole Fugal fam, great stuff. Okay, so we got, again, please share it out, guys. Sub if you haven't. I would really appreciate it. Trying to get back to doing what I was doing a while back. I was only doing uploaded videos back then, if you guys remember. I don't want to go back to doing strictly uploaded videos. I want to continue to live stream for you guys, and that's what I'm going to do. So just so you know. Okay, so what are we looking at here? Guys, that same sunspot right here. This is the one that did the X flare. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit more here in a minute because it's an odd sunspot to begin with. It is not oriented like it's supposed to be. And I'll explain that in detail here in just a second. I didn't put it in my thumbnail or anything because these other things are more important, frankly. So first thing I want to touch on is the radiation storm. Okay? I just want to say first and foremost, this is nothing to be concerned about right now. Okay? I know sometimes the thumbnails can kind of lead that direction. But that's not my intent. My intent is to bring people in. And I'm not over-exaggerating things either. It is a radiation storm, just so you guys get it. If you guys remember, last time I talked to you here, I was showing you guys these little spikes in the proton data. So with that being said, remember I told you it got real close to S1, which is the first level of radiation storms, which typically won't mean anything for us. Okay, it's just not going to affect us that much. It more so points to what's actually happening in space weather. And I'm going to explain here in just a minute. But as you can tell, we had a slow increase after that. Remember I said this could happen? Because it takes a while sometimes for protons to get here. They can get here really quick with large eruptions. But when we get a glancing blow like we did from that X-flare, and by the way, guys, that X-flare did hit. It just was our polarity, our BZ that I talk about all the time. Let's go over here and I'll show you that. It hit, but it didn't go too far negative. Matter of fact, it was staying positive quite a bit of the time. Plus, it was more of a glancing blow than what the NASA model was showing. And I actually brought that up to you guys, and that's why I nowcast. You know, my opinion at the time was if it did hit us, we was going to get, you know, if we took a pretty direct hit, it could have been a G2 or G3 even. But right now, as it stands, we didn't get any of that. It got up to like a 4 on the KP, and that's not even storm level. 4 is right here. Okay, so we got to get to a KP of 5 to get a G1 storm. That's a geomagnetic storm. But we did fluctuate. It did go up, and it stayed up, and we were getting stuff from flares, coronal holes. It was so hard to forecast, and that's why I don't do that, because I feel like at the end of the day, I got a better chance of being wrong than I do right. And I'm not going to do that to you. I'm not going to do that to myself. So, but I will give my opinion, and that's what it was at the time, is my opinion. Just so happens my opinion was about half right and half wrong that time. So that's just what it was. You know, I'm always going to be honest about that kind of stuff. So, hey, Jill, good to see you. Okay. Let's go. So, as you can tell, guys, so I don't get distracted here, we did get another larger flare. Okay, it was like an M4 or an M3, something like that. Might even, yeah, probably like an M4. I can't remember. I'd have to go look exactly. You know, when we're talking about M4 to M3, it's really not that much of a difference. And that's why I don't like, oh God, it needs to be at M this, and this. At the end of the day, those little points don't matter unless they're actually getting up into X class range. That's when those little small increments matter. But with that being said, we are in a radiation storm, S1 storm right now. We have been now for, well, we're getting close to 24 hours now. Okay? It started here. If we stay in radiation storm, it'll be here. And this oftentimes happens. And this is protons left over from that X flare. Okay, we had X flare, M flare, Icme fired from both of those. Okay, the CMEs is what got fired out at us, right? So all those protons were hanging around there, and they got picked up by the solar wind stream. They got picked up by the two CMEs as they glanced us. It pushed things our direction. Okay, and it finally got here. It got here very slowly, as you can tell. See that? It took it almost 2 days to get that far. This does happen. It's a gradual increase. But we've also seen radiation storms with bigger, directly Earth-facing flares. Okay? Sometimes those will blast off, and it'll come right at us. And if it's coming right at us at a very high rate of speed, protons can get here in 20 minutes. The X-rays are here in 8 minutes. So, you know, when we're talking about plasma, which is what causes geomagnetic storms, that takes it typically 2 to 5 days to get here. 2's on the short end, which means it would be strong. 5 would be on the back end of that, which means typically those things, we don't even notice those half the time. But anyway, I did want to show you that part of it. Now, these models have not updated for this new CME I'm going to show you. Okay? At least the last time I looked, they hadn't. This one has not. Last time this one updated was like on, let's see here. Well, it did update today, it looks like. So, maybe this is. I don't know if it's updated for the CME that happened yet. I guess it could have right there on the end. And again, guys, they might think the CME that's coming off there is moving slow, and I'll show it to you. Matter of fact, I'm just going to show it to you now. I got to get in the habit of doing that. I apologize when I don't do that, guys. It's not my intent to do that, to have you guys just to hang around. That is never my intent. Just know that. So, this is SOHO. Okay? This is the satellite a million miles closer to the sun. Sits out right in front of Earth, always looking at the sun. Okay? What you're seeing here, and I'm going to slow it down, you're seeing a halo eruption. What that means is we had a flare, that M flare, fired off, okay, and then it produced plasma that left the sun. And it's significant enough, and it's right in front. Remember what I said about the X flare? If that had fired right in front of us, what would have happened? This is what would have happened. But this would have been a lot bigger, a lot more powerful, okay? Potentially, I should say. So when I'm talking about a halo, and this is a good way to show you guys, and I show this often because I think it's important. You see this little hazy look you're getting? Okay, this is a difference image on the satellite, okay? And I'm not going to get into exactly what the coronagraph and how it works because it is quite a bit of an explanation. But this black disk is always there. Why is that? This is not the sun. This is an actual disk on the camera. It's blocking the light of the sun. Because if it didn't, the light from the sun would just flood the equipment, and you wouldn't get nothing but a white picture. You would see nothing. It blinds it. Okay, so what's that mean? Well, given that this satellite's right out in front of us, from our perspective, it's as if you walked outside and looked at the sun. Okay, that's the perspective you're getting. So when you see these eruptions, what's called a halo, it means it's coming either right at us or it's going directly the other way, off the backside. And I see a lot of people jump out here, and I've seen it, I won't say a lot of people, because it's kind of slowed down. Come out and say, oh my gosh, we had this big eruption, halo eruption. They think it's coming at us, but it wasn't. It was actually going the opposite direction. I've made the same mistake. Okay, and that's why patience is important in what we do here. Okay, if we're not patient about what we're talking about, then we don't need to be talking about nothing at all, because we get things very, very wrong. And if I ever do show you guys something very, very quickly or early on in an event, I always tell you that, hey, this is probably going to change, at least a little bit. And, you know, I hear a lot of people complaining because they change their forecasting. Well, would you rather them not change their forecasting when they've got it wrong on their initial forecast? Think about that for a second. It makes no sense, right? So don't complain about that kind of stuff. Let them fix it and let's see. I mean, these things are, we're talking about something 93 million miles away, firing off, and they're trying to forecast almost like right away with these models what's going to happen. And it has become increasingly accurate. So with that being said, that is the coronagraph part of this. And by the way, little side note, this little circle over here, that is the surface of the sun, trying to represent the surface of the sun. This is kind of the corona. Always remember, the surface of the sun's colder than the corona. That's a fact that I try to point out all the time, because a lot of people don't know that. And it's important to understand that, okay? So, and if I'm saying a lot, somebody call me out, would you? I'm really trying to stop that. You know, most people that talk in a public way to people, you will see that they have like what they call like a thinking word. They'll say that as they're trying to think about what they need to say next. Like I do and I've watched some of my videos, and I'll do it like a bunch. Other times I don't, and I'm consciously trying not to do that. I have to actually give Tommy some credit on that. He gave me some tools on how not to do that. He's very good at public speaking. And now see, I just did it. You see what I'm saying, guys? I mean, it's ridiculous. It's like anyway. I actually had a orange Post-it note on my computer for a very long time, so I would remember not to do that. And that was his suggestion. So, yeah. Great suggestion. He helped me out there for sure. Anyway, so as we get moving on here, we are going to go over here to SDO. Because it is annoying, guys, when somebody sits there and says, I've watched court proceedings on some of these channels, and the lawyers do that to the point where I have to go to a different channel because it's so annoying. So if I'm doing that, somebody tell me, please. I'm not going to be offended. Please try to be respectful. But even if you're not respectful, tell me. I want to know. I don't want to do that. Okay, so let's check out this sunspot here. This flare that happened. Let's go ahead and submit that. This is SDO, guys. Actually, before already did. I'll show you where the satellite's at here in just a second. I'll give you a graphic to look at. But what we're looking at here, guys, is the satellite that's from our perspective also. It's in geosynchronistic orbit, which means it stays over the same part of our planet. But it's always looking at the sun. This is the 94 angstrom. It's just a part of our light spectrum that we cannot see with our eyes. It's looking at specific gases. That's the goal of this. And so what we're going to see here, they can assign this any color they want. I understand the screen's black. Now it's not. But this is that same sunspot that fired off the X-flare. Now watch what happens. Right about there. Okay, that was the bigger flare. Did you see that? Now this thing looked weird from the beginning when it crested over. And I'll explain more here in just a second. But because this thing is right here, this is why it fired things right at us. Okay, you see that? See how it almost looked like a circle? And I'm going to explain to you why I think that that looked almost like almost a symmetrical explosion like that. And the reason being is because the sunspot itself is odd. It is not something that we see a lot of. This is a rare polarity sunspot. We see them from time to time, but this one, and this is probably why it's so active. Matter of fact, I think Dr. Tony Phillips even commented on that over on Space Weather News, how this is kind of why this sunspot's been so active, because its polarity is kind of jacked up in the way that, yeah, see there, when it did that thing again. In a way that, well, we're just going to look at it. Okay. What we're going to look at here, matter of fact, I'm going to take it back to a different day even. Let's go back to Monday. Okay, I'm going to let that thing load. It probably won't take a whole lot to load there. This is that sunspot. So when we see polarity on sunspots, and you can even compare it to other sunspots, they should be horizontal. What that means is the positive or negative, whichever one we're talking about, the opposite polarity of that should be parallel to each other. Left to right, right to left. Okay? This one is not. When you see red and blue, this is north-south. Look at the orientation of that. Okay, this doesn't happen often. And when this does, these sunspots become very complex. And even the outer parts of this one is more north-south. These are little cores, right? So the fact that we're not only seeing one section of this region showing that kind of a polarity rarity, you're seeing it here too. See up here where they're left, right, just right above it? Here even. Well, even right here. See that? So that's a rare thing. The sunspots don't usually present like that. So this is what's causing some of these eruptions. That's why this thing has been so active. It's one of the reasons, I should say. It's harboring enough energy to produce more X-flares, guys. And I do have to say that that's actually a fairly large region for a, they call them coronal prominences when you got a group of sunspots here. They usually start out as prominences. Sorry about that. A little tongue-tied there. But then, then they'll turn into individual sunspots, and they'll start naming them. Giving them a number anyway. But that's where the X-flare came from. This is where this current flare popped off at. Okay? With that being said, let's check out another angstrom here while I've got you here. We're going to check out the 304. This will show plasma leaving the sun pretty well. It's ionized helium. And again, guys, they could assign this thing any color they want. I say this a lot, and because people, it is kind of funny, I guess, but they could assign it baby poop green if they wanted to. They could assign it whatever color. They're just showing you a specific, and you can actually prove this out by going and looking at other satellites, because they'll show you the same angstrom, but yet it'll be a different color on a different satellite or a different website. Okay? Like I'm showing you SDO right here, but I could go here. Well, sorry, wrong one. I could go here, and you're going to get different data. It's the same, not different data. Same data, but different images. These are different websites, but they're using the same data from the same satellite. So with that being said, sometimes they can vary in what they're showing you. And it's important to know that, because it's interesting, number one, because we need to understand what we're looking at. So with that being said, here is that sunspot. It's going to get about over here. There it went. See that? That was that end flare, I think. The bigger end flare. Maybe not. Let's see. Anyway, you can see how that thing keeps reaching out. There it went, right there. Okay? So with that being said, I am going to pause it. And we're going to go up here and check this out. This way. Okay? So I'm going to slow it down. Notice how it's staying active all the way through. We just haven't been getting hit with them because they're firing off the other direction. That was fairly substantial. Okay? See that? That's plasma leaving the sun. Pull this cursor back over here. Right about, here we go, right there. Okay, so I'm going to slow it down. Actually, I'll zoom in for you guys. That way you guys can see it just a touch better. Well, daggone it. Okay. Let's do this real quick then. So if I could pull this up here now, hopefully this thing will, no, okay, we'll just do it like this. Here we go, right there. Okay, right there. That is the M flare, and you can see the plasma. Okay, so let me back that off a little bit for you guys. All right. See how the dark shadow right there shot off? That's plasma leaving the sun. Okay. We oftentimes see like not coronal holes, but canyons of fire. And what it is it's a filament typically that rips off the sun. These little dark segments that rip off, and you'll see it kind of like split, and it looks like a canyon opens up. They call them canyons of fire here on the sun. Does that mean anything? No, it just means that that's what they call it. And it's not that bad of a name for it. It is kind of a little on the upper end of, hey, look at me, that kind of thing. But yeah, that's the term that they use, just to give a better explanation. So, with that being said, let me back that off again. And I do want to show you real quick before we go any further. I want to show you where this satellite's at. And I've been trying to show it to you guys every time I show this. You guys go over here to SDO. So all you got to do is type it in SDO. It's there. In your Google search or whatever search you're using. DuckDuckGo, whatever you use. Go there and then come to the home page. And then if you scroll down, it says right here, where is SDO? If you want to know where that satellite is. Okay? Just click on it. What's it do? It starts giving you exactly where this model's at. So I like to start at the bottom because this is really what helps people understand how this satellite orbits. It always does this figure 8 pattern right here. It doesn't leave this area. So it's orbiting around the Earth doing this figure 8 pattern at 15 degrees an hour, just like we rotate. It's called geosynchronistic orbit. There's bunches of satellites out there that do this. Okay, and there's multiple reasons to do that. SDO does that, and because it does do this geosynchronistic orbit, there are going to be times what we call the SDO eclipse season. In other words, this satellite gets in a position to where the Earth actually will pass between it and the sun. It looks all jacked up on the imaging because it looks like something's eclipsing the sun when it shouldn't be. But it's only because of the perspective of the satellite. That's the only reason why. In other words, it will be on the dark side of the planet, right in that perfect spot, and the Earth will actually go between the satellite and the sun. It's in between for a short amount of time. And there's even also there's times because of this figure 8 pattern, that satellite be in that similar position, but it will actually catch it at a time where that eclipse will stop and appear to reverse direction. That really jacks people up. I could show you on a model how that works. I'm not going to, but it definitely looks weird, but it's not. It's exactly what I said. So if you come over here and you look at this, this gives you an idea of what this thing is doing. It's looking at the sun. This is beaming back to Earth, okay? And so if I go up here to the next one, you can see where it's relaying its information to. White sands, right here. This is one of the main reasons why they do this with the geosynchronistic orbit, because it can always get that information right back to there very quickly. It gives us more real-time data. That's why. Okay? That's one of the biggest reasons why. Now, if you ever see this thing do its eclipse thing, come here, and you'll actually see that the Earth appear on this model, and it'll eclipse the sun. Okay, it'll show it to you right here on this model. So, yeah. So just remember that if you guys ever come over here and check it out. -6 means it will be in a magnetic position that it will be drawing in certain particles. Okay, it'll basically we open up and it draws things in towards our poles. Okay, and so when we're in -6 or more negative, it most definitely affects things. This is one of the biggest reasons why we either get a big geomagnetic storm or we don't. If this is in a positive orientation when a CME hits, a lot of times we don't take the hit. It'll bounce it right off. Notice how, speed's kind of dropping here, so is density right now. That means things are probably either starting to level out, things are starting to calm down. So that's what I would say to that. Now, if I go up here, this is their forecasting. Okay, I'm not going to try to forecast nothing. It's not going to happen. Guess what? They're going to have to change this. This says there's a 15% chance we have a radiation storm. Well, it's a 100% chance, guys. I mean, we're in a radiation storm right now. So, and I can't tell you how long that's going to last. I won't even try because it's just not simply possible, number one. Number two, it's just, yeah, I don't want to be wrong. So, anyway, this is their forecast of the percentage of chances for flares. And these are radio blackouts. That's actually what the percentage is trying to tell you. So when we get a big flare, they collect the data on X-ray, right? So the X-ray is what they're looking at. So with that being said, when we get a lot more X-ray from the flare, right? That's the flare, not the CME, not the plasma. Flare is X-ray, okay? So when that hits, it puts us into radio blackout conditions on the sun side on the daylight side of the planet, okay? And typically those things, it comes and goes rather quickly, but with these long duration events, sometimes it doesn't. So here's my assumption, okay? We entered into this radiation storm very slowly, but then we get this flare. That fired off more protons. So it may keep us in radiation storm a little bit longer. You can even kind of see a little dip here and then back up from this, I think. I mean, it's very small, but at the end of the day, this radiation storm ain't really that big of a deal. Okay? So if I take you down here and show you the absorption, this is what we need to talk about. Okay? This is what it's showing you, the deabsorption region, and what this is, normal X-ray background, right? So when you see more X-ray and stuff coming here, that's what it's trying to show you. All right? Notice how things are more active on the poles. Why? Because of exactly what I just said. So, with that being said, I can't really take you back to when that flare happened, because this only goes back a couple hours. But you can definitely see how all these particles and stuff are hanging in on our poles. That's your radiation storm. Okay? Because it's being measured over here in megahertz. So, anyway, that's what I'll just say to that. Now, you can kind of see that. Now, if I was able to take this back when that flare happened, I see here. What time did that flare happen? Let's go look. Okay, so it happened probably around 2, maybe 3 o'clock UTC. Remember, UTC is the time zone they use on everything almost. Any site you go to, that's what they're going to use is UTC. If you're on the East Coast, there's a 4-hour difference between you and UTC. So that's a rule of thumb. If you're somewhere else on the planet, you can kind of find out your time zone so you know exactly what's going on there. But when this is on the day side, which would be, so I can't take you back far enough, but it would probably be over here where that flare would be the most intense, where those radio blackouts would have been. So if I got any Aussies in the chat or anything, you might type in there if we had any kind of radio blackouts where you're at, because it would have affected Australia or any of these areas over here, really. Japan probably a little bit, maybe. Indonesia, all of New Zealand. So I love my Aussies. Anyway, so let's but I do want to show you guys. We're going to go look, and I looked earlier. It hadn't updated yet, but let's see what the NASA CME tracker is showing us now. Is it going to show us? Nope, it's not. Tell you already. Yeah, it's not. That's a different CME, guys. Earth is here. So that right there happened back on like the 2nd or 3rd. So yeah, it hasn't updated yet. And again, guys, I'm probably going to try to stream again tonight, later on, so I'll be able to show that to you then. But so let's go back over here to seeds. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to back this off a little bit. Oh, don't freeze up on me. Okay, so we're going to check out the whole day on the 4th here. Okay, so this is all the data we have so far. There is nothing else going on right now on the sun. This is what we're talking about. Okay, now this CME, when it arrives, it's coming right at us. So it doesn't seem to be moving all that fast. That's what I'll say. So we're probably looking at least 3 days. And if you want to go off of NOAA's forecasting, which they have the same model right here as the CME model as this one. Oop. Nope. As that one. These are the same models, but they take into consideration different data. It's the same data, but they take certain parts of it, and it means more to one model than what it does on another. It's just like a hurricane model, guys. Here, when we get hurricanes, those spaghetti line models, they never ever agree with one another. Not exactly, right? They might get close, but when both of these models agree with each other, that's when we're like, yeah, this thing's really going to hit. It's the same thing with hurricanes. So just kind of keep that in mind. It's just a way to be able to explain things to you, okay? But NOAA, again, this is NOAA's forecasting, and they're saying, and if they haven't updated for this, it looks like they have, because what this shows, today's the 4th, right? This model is showing you 2 days of historic data. What happened 2 days before? Then it tries to forecast out 5 days in advance. So 1, 2, 3, 4. They're saying the CME is probably going to be here in about 4 days right now. Now that's going to probably change one direction or the other. And they always give themselves a plus or minus 7 hours on the accuracy of what they're telling you, which is very, very rational to do. That's very reasonable to have. So, if you guys ever come over here to NOAA Space Weather Prediction Center, mods, can you guys plop that into the live stream for me if you would? This right here is showing radio blackout. That's from the flare. This is 24-hour observed maximums. Okay, this is latest observed. This is just kind of a generic rule of thumb. You come here, real quick look to see what's going on currently. If these boxes are different colors, you're going to want to look into it a little bit just to see what's happening. It's showing us an S1 radiation storm. What is that? Well, again, it means almost nothing really to us other than to show us, hey, we got space weather. Now, what I will show you are the space weather scales. And what this is, you guys can go look at this for yourself, okay? It's going to tell you what would be expected during geomagnetic storms, solar radiation storms, and radio blackouts at different levels. Right now, this is the S1. Biological, what's it say? None. There is no effect on us. Satellite operations, none. Other systems, minor impacts on high-frequency radio in the polar region. So what I'm saying is this is basically not affecting hardly anybody on our planet. Just so you know. Okay? So when these and when we talked about the radio blackouts earlier, we had an R1. So what that would mean, weak or minor degradation to high-frequency radio. Okay? Ham radio operators, guys, have issues with this. So, you know, first responders and things like that, that's what the concern is with the radio blackouts. They still use those kinds of communications. So it can affect people in a very real way. You know, if you have, say you had a loved one that needed an ambulance and we had a big R5 storm, they could be having communication issues. Because at that point, it would be affecting not only ham radio operations, it would also be affecting GPS. A lot of almost all first responders now use both for that very reason. Because during certain conditions, it's better to have GPS. In other conditions, it's better to have radio. Okay, so that's why we look at this. It does matter. Okay, so yeah. Now again, guys, if something else happens, I'll be back out here pretty quick for you. If not, I'll try to come back on later on tonight and give you guys an update. Guys, get over and check out everybody I mentioned at the beginning of the stream, please. You know, we don't want to forget those that helped us. Go check out Marfugal. Please go check out Marfugal. Okay? And check out the Lifeboat, Rip, Trinity, Arlia, everybody else. So, anyway, guys, I'm going to go ahead and pop off here. God bless. Yahusha saves, and you can drink this Kool-Aid.